Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Ben with Brewster's Retro and Repair. Today we'll be working on a Joy-Con from a Nintendo Switch OLED model. This one was dropped and the rail has been broken out, so we are going to open this up and see if we can get it repaired. I am using a Y00 tri-wing bit in order to remove these 4 screws from the back of the Joy-Con shell. And once we have removed all 4 of these screws, the shell should just pop right open. Let's see. Okay, so that's got the back half of the shell off. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus here. There we go. And typically there would be a spot for a screw just there, and that seems to have been broken off, so we'll need to go ahead and replace the back part of the shell. Now I've got a new rail for this Joy-Con ready to go ahead and go in, but first we will need a new back half so that we can secure it properly. I was able to source a brand new shell here. I won't be changing out the entire thing, as I'm going to keep as much of this original as possible, but what I will be doing is going ahead and removing the battery for just a moment, as I'd like to go ahead and replace this joystick here. It seems to be pretty worn down and looks like it could use a replacement. So before I attempt to secure the new rail, we're going to go ahead and continue taking this apart. In order to remove the battery and the piece of plastic that holds it in place, we're going to go ahead and switch over to a Japanese industrial standard bit. This one is labeled as a J00 bit. And some of the screws, in order to remove this, there we are under the battery itself, so we'll actually need to get that out of the way before we can go ahead and remove this entire panel to get to the joystick that's underneath. So we'll set this battery off to the side and go ahead and remove these remaining 2 screws. Now, with those out of the way, we do still have a ribbon cable that is attached here, so we'll want to be very careful not to rip or damage this ribbon cable while we're working, but we are just going to flip this over and set that down just beside the piece that we're working with. And now we have access to the joystick itself. There is one ribbon cable just here that is still in the way, and I'll try to get that into focus on the camera here. Well, it looks like it's having some trouble, but the ribbon cable is just here in front of my thumb. There it goes. So this ribbon cable right here will need to be unplugged and moved out of the way in order to access one of these screws. But as soon as that's done, we'll just need to remove these 2 screws and disconnect this ribbon cable for the joystick in order to remove the old joystick from the Joy-Con. Now that I've got that ribbon cable disconnected, I'll just hold that out of the way with my index finger while I use my other hand to operate the screwdriver and get this screw out. It looks like my shoulder button there is fallen out, but that's no big deal as I can replace it once this Joy-Con has been replaced itself. Now there is a little bit of plastic here we'll want to try to keep in place. We can kind of work the joystick out through there without prying it up, as long as we're careful whenever we're working on it. Now that we've got this Joy-Con, or joystick rather, unmounted and the ribbon cable is loose, we can just pop it out like so. Set that old one to the side. And I've got a brand new Joy-Con here, joystick here, that we're going to install in its place. Just a bit of light pressure will get it through that little bit of black plastic, and once that is down through the black plastic, we'll want to go ahead and move this ribbon cable so that it's not trapped there underneath the retainer for the screw. Now that we've got the new joystick in place, we can go ahead and grab any one of our little golden screws, well, probably brass, and all of them should be the same, so we'll go ahead and replace this one first. And then we'll grab another. And replace the second screw. Now that we've got these screws back in place, we can go ahead and reconnect the ribbon cables. There we are. Now that we've secured the ribbon cables, we can go ahead and return our shoulder button back to its original place. You'll want to make sure that the spring is lined up properly when replacing this. And then we can go ahead and flip this piece with our other shoulder button back into place. Of course, we do want to be very careful not to dislodge that first shoulder button, as I have done. And as long as we're careful for that upper shoulder button, we can go ahead and get this back into place. and anchor it back down with these Phillips head screws. Sorry, Japanese industrial standard screws. They are definitely not Phillips, and you will learn that very quickly if you attempt to use a Phillips head bit on them, as they will strip out rather quickly. And I may have gotten ahead of myself slightly here. What I'll need to do actually is remove this panel again, as one of the ribbon cables that we need to connect for the new slider rail is actually located under this. We'll just pop this back over for just a second. We are going to grab our slider rail, grab our new rail, and we will get this anchored down into place before we attempt to get these ribbon cables socketed in as well. Okay, so I had a little bit of confusion there, so I didn't remember for a second which screw it was that came out, but this is the only one it could be, as I had my desk cleaned up before I started, and this is the only screw that I don't know the placement of right offhand. Okay, so we've got that anchored into place. Now that that is anchored into place, we can go ahead and open up the little ports here that these ribbon cables plug into. And typically, reconnecting these is just as simple as lining them up, if I can do that. And then flipping that little tab back into place. So that's got the upper ribbon cable there. Now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and try to get the second ribbon cable into place. I apologize if I am getting the back of my head in the way of the camera. Okay. So now that we have plugged the ribbon cables back in, we just need to make sure that they flex in the proper direction as we put this back together. We'll go ahead and, okay, so we've got them flexing inward, and we're going to go ahead and flip this back over and re-secure. Well, I'm not honestly sure what to call this. Re-secure the, I guess, the battery holder. And in order to avoid shorting those contacts, I am just going to locate one of my plastic spudgers and use that to press that back into place. Okay, so I've got a plastic spudger here. Let's see if we can't press this battery connection back into place so that we can get this back together. Okay, so we've got that plugged back in. Now we just need to press the battery back down on the double-sided tape. And we can go ahead and bring this back shell piece back into place. We want to be careful because, once again, we want these ribbon cables to fold in a particular way, and since they've never been installed before, they may not naturally want to go the direction that we need them to. Okay. So it looks like that is going to go back together without a problem. I was a little bit worried because I did not source this new shell, directly from Nintendo. But it seems as though it is pretty good quality. I haven't noticed any defects myself. So now that I know that this is not going to have any issues going back together, can move this battery out of the way and replace these 3 screws that anchor the battery holder in place. If it had any issues going back together, my backup plan would have been to go ahead and strip the shell entirely of its internals and just transfer everything to the new shell, but in this case I will hold on to the front half in case more repairs are needed in the future, and give the customer back a controller that is still made of as many original parts as possible. So now that we have re-anchored this, we can go ahead and replace our battery back into place again. Flip over the back portion of the Joy-Con. and get that snapped back into place. Now we can switch from our Japanese industrial standard bit back over to our Tri-Wing 00 size bit and return each of the screws that hold the shell together back into their homes. For whatever reason, maybe the material that these were made out of, the screws, the shells of these Joy-Cons, well, that hold the outer shell together, do not want to stick to my magnetic bits. Maybe that they're not made of a ferrous material, or maybe just the magnetic field is wrong in order to get these particular screws to line up, or, well, to be attracted rather. So I will still need to clean this up. I just don't like giving anything back to customers looking dirty, but that's the repair. We've got a new Joy-Con, a new joystick installed into the Joy-Con. We've got a new slider rail as well. I will, oh yeah, look at that. Looks like it comes right on. I will go ahead and install this onto my personal Switch and just make sure that it is in good working order, and then I will send the customer a message and let them know that their repair is complete and it's ready to pick up. If you are still with us, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I also have a Facebook page where you can check out more of the mods and repairs that I have done. And I will do my best to update the channel as frequently as I can. I do have a couple of Game Boy Advances that I'm working on making a video for, but it's going to be quite a bit longer, and so I'm just, well, I'm waiting until I have enough time to get it done without being interrupted too much. So once again, thanks for joining me, and have a great day.